Hey there everybody, it's Missy with the Shimmerz education team, and I'm back with another layout for this month. And I just wanted to remind you that when you shop in the Shimmerz store online, if you mention my name when you check out, you can get one surprise free paint to try. So for this layout, I'm going to start with some white cardstock, and I just picked out some of my stencils, 6x6 stencils that I hadn't used in a while, and I thought I would just spray some of the vibes and spritz through the stencils and just kind of create my own artsy, messy background. And so I'm starting with this really small square grid stencil, and I'm using Spritz in Caribbean Sunset, and it's a really pretty coral color. It's very shimmery. And I just spray it right through the stencil and then flip the stencil over and stamp it down. And I'm going to kind of mix and match some colors here. This is Vibes in Pop Art Pink. It's a really soft pink, but it has gold powder mixed in with it. And so when it dries, you're going to get this really shimmery gold on top of the pink. It is a beautiful color. Now I'm going to come over with this little tiny circle stencil and use Coloring's No Yoking. Clearly, you can see it is a very bright yellow. And, you know, at this point, I'm like, I don't even know if I like this. I'm not sure if I like this color scheme. But I just wanted to kind of get random and try some different mixes. And I wanted to go bright and summery. I wanted some pinks, some orangey corals, and some yellows. And so I kind of liked it, but I thought I could make this a little bit better. I didn't want to chunk it. So I'm going to come over it with the packaging technique with some pink, and I think this makes a big difference. This is Coloring's Pink Stilettos, one of my favorite pink colors. And I just kind of wanted, you know, like I said, to make an artsy, messy background. And it always kind of looks like a hot mess in the beginning, but when you start adding your photo and your embellishments and things on top of it, it totally changes the way everything looks. So here's kind of what I've got planned. I'm going to use this picture of one of my daughters in the pool, and I like that there's a lot of soft blue in the background. It's going to really pop off the page against all that pink and coral and yellow, and I love how that looks. See, it looks totally different when you put your picture on top. So I decided I'm going to add just a little bit of blue to the background, not a lot. I'm going to start with just some splatters, and this is a Creamies called Ride the Tide. Very pretty soft blue. And the Creamies, if you have not ever used them or you're new to the Shimmerz channel or my channel, the Creamies come in these little pots, and they come dry and kind of like a hard cake. And all you have to do is add water to them and give them just a few minutes and start stirring them up, and the paint is going to be activated, and it's going to start to become watery and very easy to paint with. And so I'm just going to add some splatters there. I'm also going to use... what's the other one there? Oh, that one is a Shimmerz, one of the original Shimmerz paints. And it's called Winter's Mists. And those come to you also in the little pots, but they're already mixed up. All you have to do is stir them up. And they've got like chunks of glitter in there. Very, very sparkly when they dry. So I'm going to jazz this up even more with some of my gelatos. And I'm just going to do a little bit of smudging here. Now, I didn't use any gesso. I know I talk about a lot in my other videos, if you use gesso first, you can really smudge the gelatos a lot easier. And this is a good example of this. They're smudging, but it's a totally different look than if you would have used gesso. But this is a good example also of you don't have to use the gesso. It will still smudge. You're going to be able to see more of the cardstock's texture if you don't use gesso. But it just depends on the look you're going for, and there's no right or wrong way to do it. Sometimes I use gesso, sometimes I don't. And that's just the way it goes. So I'm going to add a little bit of random tissue paper from my stash under my picture, just to give it a little bit of a border that's pretty subtle. You know, it's not going to take away from the picture or the background or anything. And I love how the picture just sort of jumps off the page with all that blue in the background. And so I didn't want to add too much blue to the background because the picture has plenty of it. So I went through the Joy Parade collection from Fancy Pants. I bought this a while back from Paper Issues and just had not had a chance to use it. And so I went through the embellishments and the tags and the die cuts, and there's so many fun things in this collection. It is like one of those collections that you can make any kind of page with it. And it's perfect for what I like to do when I make summer pages like this. I'm going to use that tag with all those different color brush strokes on it and a couple of those little, I don't know, I guess you could call them stars. but they just match everything perfectly, and this is just a fun, happy summer layout, and I think they just look perfect with it, so I'm gonna go with it. And I want those little paint strokes on that tag to kind of peek out from underneath, and I love how the tag already has the string through it. Now, what I noticed is when I put all this together, it covered up a lot of my background, and so I want you to be able to see it. So I decided to go back with a little bit more of the pink and the coral, so it's still spreading out from underneath everything, but not too much. But I didn't want to cover everything up completely, because what's the point of it being there if you can't see it? And that's why when I make backgrounds like this, it's never really done. I know a lot of people are able to make their backgrounds first thing and then it's finished. Like, I make it and then I start to work on the photo and the embellishments, and then I realize I just covered a lot of this up, and so then I pull everything off and continue working on the background. It's a work in progress as I go. Just depends on what it looks like, and if you can see a certain color in a certain area. Like, I'm starting to cover up the blue spot in the upper right hand corner, so I'm going to add more of that later. And I was starting to cover up some of the yellow, so I'm going to add a little bit more of that. And I'm just trying to, pull in some of those colors. Now, originally, I really wasn't trying to make this a rainbow type of color scheme, and it just sort of evolved into that once I started adding all these different embellishments in there. I had no intention of using this green color, but I love how it looks, and I'm so glad that I added it in there. That tag just sort of jumped out at me. And so it did not have string in it, and so I had to go to my stash and pull some out, because I think this looks really good with the two layered tags right beside each other like that. And I love the string hanging off those. And I'm going to try to keep most everything kind of clustered around the photos, or the photo, and not go too much around the edges. And these are all bits and pieces from this Joy Parade collection, and there were so many pieces that I wanted to use, but I had to limit myself. So here's where I'm going to add some more blue. This is what I was talking about a few minutes ago. If I start to cover something up, I'm just going to add to it and spread it out a little further so you can see it. And I'm using some of this Ride the Tide paint on my finger to smudge the gelato, and then adding a little bit more splatters. I love how this is looking. Once I got the color scheme and these embellishments going, this actually came together pretty quickly, and I like when that happens, because sometimes I struggle and struggle, and it takes me forever, it seems, to finally get a piece or a project, a final piece that I like. And this one, with everything I added, I was like, yes, I love this. Yes, I love this. Now, this is a little epoxy sticker sheet from Amy Tangerine Rise and Shine, and it matched perfectly. So I'm going to add a couple little epoxy stickers. I'm going to add that little cloud at the top, little green circle over to the left, and then that blue "Oh Yes" down at the bottom. And I go back and forth with using one of the flare buttons that came from the collection, but I just couldn't find the right spot for it, so I kind of hem-haw around with that for a while. Now, this is a sticker sheet from a Me and My Big Ideas book that I got at Michael's, and I like it, but I don't wind up keeping it. I wanted a white title kind of going across there, but you can't really see it. It's too white and it's too flat, so I don't wind up keeping that. Because while this is really bright, I still wanted to keep it kind of soft. I don't even know if that makes sense or if that's even possible, because it is really bright, but yet I still wanted a lot of the white space to show through. So I added a little bit of foam under the whole thing so it would kind of have some dimension and rise up off the page. And before I glue any of that down, I'm going to add some thread, and I'm going to use yellow on both sides. And now I'm ready to glue it down. And I get asked so many times, almost in every video, what kind of glue I use. That is the Scotch Tacky Glue. It used to be the Scotch Quick Dry Adhesive, and I get it at Michael's, and it's the same glue as it used to be, except I believe they just changed the packaging and the name. It works the same as far as I know. I think it works great, and it works great in the fine liner bottle as well. So I went to my Cameo and I cut out the word fun, and that's just a silhouette store cut file. I cut it on white cardstock, and to make it stand out a little bit more, I added some pink thread under it. Just makes it not so tone on tone with the white background. And I like that you can see this one a little bit better than that sticker because it's bigger, and since it's a die cut, I can glue it and it doesn't lay flat. Like part of the F, part of the N is kind of sticking up off the page, so we're able to see it a little bit more. I'm going to make sure all those epoxy stickers are glued down, and then this little piece here, I'm going to add the date stamp, that little arrow piece down at the bottom. And then this is a 12 by 12 sheet of pattern paper from the Joy Parade collection. And I don't do this a whole lot, but I'm going to cut off about a 1/2 inch border around the entire layout and back it with this really pretty blue ombre dotted paper, just to bring in a little bit more of the blue around the edges. And I think that looks really cute. Since I don't do this a lot, I totally told myself to cut the middle of that paper out so I could save it, but before I even realized I hadn't done that, I was already gluing it down. And then once I stitched around the edges, I was like, oh great, you just ruined, or not ruined, but wasted the whole inside of that blue paper. It's covered up. Yeah, I did some pink stitching around the edges, and it's at this point I was thinking I could have used the middle of that paper, but too late now. But I like how this looks, and so I'm going to ruffle up the edges of the white paper there since it's stitched down. The thread just gives it a little bit of interest and texture and a little pop of pink going around the edges there. So now I'm going to add a couple of lines for my journaling. And then one of the last final touches is going to be some sequins, and these are all from Spiegel Mom Scraps. If you want some sequins that are just gorgeous in almost any color you can imagine, I highly recommend you check out Spiegel Mom Scraps because she has got a wonderful variety of those. So I'm just going to glue those down. They kind of look like they just randomly fell. And there they go. That's the final layout. I really love how this turned out. I love how it's bright, yet it's still soft. And you still get the whole idea of summer and fun. And I love the background. I love that it's kind of random and, you know, but all those colors just come out. And I really didn't even plan on using this collection until, you know, I got my background done and I just happened to see that it would match. I love when that happens. So let me know if you have any questions about any of the Shimmerz products. Make sure you visit the Shimmerz store. I had the link down below and the blog linked below as well. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.